With the 2026 class in full swing, you heard that right, because we're hitting official visit season. The Oklahoma Sooners just got an under the radar prospect to visit last Sunday. And guess what? He's going to be back on campus this week for an official visit. And the Oklahoma Sooners, they already might have some inroads here. So, of course, I think we got to talk about it today. We're going to talk about this defensive end room and what's in store for Miguel Chavis. Before we do that, though, as always, I want to hear from y'all. So make sure you guys are joining the discussion, jumping down in the comments below. And if you don't want to continue to miss more content like this, make sure that you're hitting the like, hitting the subscribe button so that this content is going to continue to get pushed to you. But today we got to talk about an under the radar prospect that visited Oklahoma this past week. And let me tell you, I think his recruitment is potentially going to blow up here in his senior season because I think he's going to have a big senior season. That's going to be Matthew Nelson, the 6'5", 215-pound edge out of Bryant, Arkansas. Now, you might be asking, okay, so you said there was some inroads with this kid, right? Well, does the high school ring a bell to you? Bryant, Arkansas? That's where Ja'Cory Smith's from, right? And so you've already got one commit in this class. Does that help you potentially land a second one? Obviously, it's never a guarantee, right? We see kids from the same high school go to separate schools all the time. But Oklahoma is Matthew Nelson's biggest offer. But don't let that alarm you, right? So although Oklahoma is the biggest offer and you're competing with schools like Tulsa and Tulane, Matthew Nelson, like I said, his recruitment's going to blow up. He's going to end up picking up some more offers. I think a lot of people just haven't really figured out how to evaluate Matthew Nelson and his talents yet. Matthew Nelson, 6'4", or 6'5", 215, edge prospect, 4'6", 40. He had a 37 vertical, 6'9" wingspan, bench 335. Absolutely insane prospect. Somebody that I definitely think Miguel Chavis can end up over 2 or 3 years really molding and refining into one of these great defensive ends that we've been able to see Oklahoma have over the past couple of years. So got a chance to kind of catch up with Matthew Nelson after his visit this past weekend for the Brent Venables camp. Kind of got a chance to ask, hey, how's your recruitment going? Right. And, what's currently, where does Oklahoma sit for you? And he said, hey, like the recruitment's going good. Oklahoma and Tulane are going back and forth for different reasons. But he's just trying to slow everything down, reevaluate this recruitment, look at what everybody's able to offer. And so kind of went in a little bit more to the visit. And he just said it was like nice, right? It was nice to get back on campus, see all the coaches in person, see the facilities. It was his first time up for Oklahoma. And so kind of asked him, hey, what sets Oklahoma apart from Tulane? Because in the initial statement, it sounded like this was right now an Oklahoma-Tulane battle. Definitely could change, right? It sounds like Tulsa was potentially in the mix up there as well. Maybe if Arkansas throws an offer, maybe maybe this recruitment gets a little bit more dicey for Oklahoma. Right now, seems like the Oklahoma-Tulane. And so he said, hey, like, as far as how far they are, that's a factor here. Also, how he'd have to get his major and minor at Tulane. But Oklahoma, they have his field of study. And then he also likes how, to build a family. That's what he wants to see in school, right? He wants to be able to build a family and see himself fitting in his degree. And so with Matthew Nelson, you look at Oklahoma, it feels like they checked the boxes. It feels like Oklahoma could potentially win this recruitment. And you would expect Oklahoma to win a recruitment over the Tulane and the Tulsas of the world. But that's also with an understanding probably in Matthew Nelson's mindset of, okay, I'm literally coming in, getting a degree, and probably riding the bench for at least a year, not even seeing the field for a couple years, because it's a project. That's what Matthew Nelson is. But it's a project that I think could end up being a really good prospect for Oklahoma. I mean, you look at his wingspan, you look at his 40 time. Like, I think this is a guy that if you look at current guys on the team, probably more of like an R. Mason Thomas comp, maybe a little bit more there. I know some of you guys might not agree with that. That's kind of where I would have to look at it. So for Matthew Nelson, going to be on campus this weekend, originally had his official visit for the Champion Barbecue Weekend, June 20th through the 22nd. But this official visit weekend for Oklahoma is absolutely massive. Like, over last time I checked on my list, like 13 or 14 dudes over that. So Matthew Nelson moving his official visit up to this June 6th weekend. Maybe Oklahoma can try to close the deal. Wouldn't that be nice to see Oklahoma get another commit on the board after the big official visit weekend? And we'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about those visitors. But where's Oklahoma going to go at edge? Outside of Matthew Nelson, what's Miguel Chavis in Oklahoma doing? Because you don't got anything yet. And so you look up and down the list, and when you look at the offer sheet, the first guy that stands out to you, Jake Krull, the 6'3", 230-pound edge rusher out of IMG Academy. That is what feels like one of the prized prospects for Oklahoma in this class. And it's one that I feel like Oklahoma's been trending really well for. Over 50 offers. Jake Krull is a prospect that I don't feel like I feel like he can't miss. So I feel like that's one where Oklahoma's trending very well, but it's one that you still have to really baby, and one that I think you got to watch out for the Ohio States of the world. You've got to watch out for Texas. You know, those are schools that could cause Oklahoma problems. Currently the number 60th player in the composite rankings, but one that I would completely expect right now, if you had to ask me to pencil in a class, Jake Krull would probably be in that class. If I scroll down and I look down at the offer sheet a little bit more, you have to scroll down quite a little bit farther. But DeAnthony Lafayette at 6'1", 230 pounds, out of Orlando, Florida, in Lake Nona High School. Now, the only difference here is with Oklahoma, for the 745th ranked player in the 247 composite rankings, you're playing Ohio State here. Or not Ohio State, LSU here. So that's going to be a tougher battle. We know LSU does very well at, recruiting these types of kids. But he's a multi-sport athlete, track and field and football. His junior season, 73 tackles, 40 QB hurries, 17 and a half sacks in just 11 games. Phenomenal. 2 forced fumbles, 3 pass breakups, 1 interception. So Miguel Chavis, obviously not recruiting just one guy, which is why you're able to go after a guy like Matthew Nelson, but got a lot of other good prospects on the board. And there's probably some others on this list that I'm just not privy to. There's obviously guys where if Oklahoma gets into a pickle and they maybe need to try to flip somebody, obviously the guys we just talked about are on the board, but you could also circle back to a guy like Hunter Higgins, who ended up committing to Kansas, Kamarian Johnson, who ended up committing to Alabama. I think all of those guys you could potentially circle back around to. Also, Luke Waffle was a prospect that a lot of you guys were down in the prospects raving about. Maybe Oklahoma tries to circle back up with him and try to see if he's potentially still interested in Oklahoma. So I want to hear from y'all. Join the discussion. Jump in the comments below and let me know what you guys think about this 26th class for Oklahoma. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and you hit that subscribe button.